Hi everyone, welcome to my very first episode of Serger Savvy. I'm great, I'm glad you're here. Hi Mary from Ellicott City and Deb Galuski, Becca Galuski, thank you, from Wisconsin. Good to see you too. Um, I'm going to start this new video series the second Tuesday of every month, and I'm excited. This has been kind of in the works and thinking about it since 2023, later in the year, and we thought we'd just wait till January to kick it off. It's a good way to start the new year. So, oh, aloha from Honolulu and Columbia, Maryland. Hi, Eileen. Oh, I love your bags, those crossbody bags that you made when using thread fusion. That was so cool. So that's great. Hi, Linda from Maryland. Wow, I've got a few people in here from Maryland. That's great. Great to see. So anyway, we are going to do these as 1 hour episodes, and I may jump on a little more frequently if I have something new and exciting to tell you about, or I want to show you something that I think is going to really help you. And I do have something coming up pretty soon. I'm just waiting for it to arrive. Hi from the Adirondacks, Vancouver, Washington. Oh, this is fantastic. East Coast, West Coast. Now, I just want to mention also that I am doing this in the middle of the day on a weekday. So if you have other plans or you're working or whatever, these will be recorded and available on my YouTube channel. So no worries if you can't make it, but I hope to see you, and it's always great to see different people chiming in. Hi from North Carolina, Michigan. Oh, with your crazy weather. Yeah, we've had it too. South Carolina, I bet it's a little warmer there than it is here. Northern California, Charlotte. Just fantastic. So it's good to see all of you. But as I said, if you only can catch the recording, that's great. And I would love to have suggestions for things that you would like to show me in these 1 hour episodes. And so you can leave those in the comments below. And that should be good. But I wanted to talk to you too. I have a Serger Essentials class on Zoom coming up this Saturday from 12 to 3:30 Eastern Time on Zoom. And so you can go to gailpatrice.com and get all the registration information for that. And what else? Oh, in February, I'm not traveling in January because it's always a little bit on the iffy side weather-wise in Connecticut. But who else do I see? Oh, Kathy Shalda. Hi. Karen Faulkner from Oregon, Long Beach, California. Hi, Margaret. I will be teaching February 24th and 25th at Beyond the Stitches in Crystal River, Florida. So I'm excited about that. I've never been to their store, and I am so happy to see Jan Squires and Dondi there. That'll be kind of fun, or a lot of fun actually. And so I'm ordering good weather for Florida when I'm there too. So, oh, snowy Montana, Toledo, Oregon, great. Rockland, California. Oh, this is so much fun to see everybody coming in here. This is fantastic. Also, as many of you know, I am a Bernina ambassador. All of these videos, though, will be suitable for people with any brand or model machine. I do like to say that, and I'm pretty familiar with all or most of them. So if you have a question about your machine, can I do this stitch on my machine? I think I can answer you, and if I can't answer you live, I will try very hard to find the right answer for you and shoot you the answer in the comments. So definitely, whether you're a Bernina owner or Baby Lock, Juki, whatever, be sure to tune in, and I think you'll get some good tips and tricks on that. But also, because I am a Bernina ambassador, I have the ambassador coupon. So if you are thinking about buying a Bernina machine, whether it's a serger, sewing machine, quilting machine, software, just let me know, and you are eligible for one of the $100 thank you rebate coupons from Bernina. It is a check that they will send you. It has to be, I can't backdate them, but it has to be from today going forward. You have 30 days to turn that in. So that's just a quick little extra savings for the new year too for you. And that's Bernina's way of thanking you. Let's see, who else do we have? New Hampshire, Georgia, Alberta. Hi, Mary. Marge, I'm looking. Phoenix, South Carolina. Snow here in Kettle. I don't know where that is, Connie. So anyway, but I'm just trying to look to make sure I don't forget anything else that I want to mention to you. But I will look at your suggestions for things. I want to see these different things. Oh, and in case you're wondering what these weird things are, these are my cameras that are on the machine, because I am going to show you a stitch that it's not brand new to Sergers, but I haven't really used it before, and I have found that it is just a beautiful, beautiful edge stitch, and I'm excited to show you that. And I'll have a more in-depth YouTube Serger tip clip on that stitch, so I'll show you that in a few minutes. I just want to say hi to everybody as we go. Virginia, oh, Norway, hey, welcome. If I knew how to say welcome in Norwegian, I would. Washington, New York City. This is so much fun. This is fantastic. So anyway, what else did I want to mention? I know a lot of you, going back to Serger Essentials this Saturday, if you need a refresher course on your Serger Essentials is overlock oriented. We'll just be covering those, and we'll talk about the machine, what it does, some of those different things. And certainly you can ask questions. Those live classes are always fun, and once again, within 24 hours, you'll receive the link for that class, so you'll own it forever. And there's no time limit on asking questions either. Scotland, hey, Maureen Johnston, hi, how are you? I haven't been to Scotland. I'd like to go. I've been to England and Ireland. I actually found my grandmother's house in Ireland a number of years ago. My husband and I went, so that was kind of fun. And my brother has been there since, so... Anyway, what else did I want to mention? I made a whole bunch of notes here. I do have some other classes coming up. I will be in, let me think, Salt Lake City, Utah in April. And I've got some other things in between. I've got a few things in March as well. So, but I don't have my list and my schedule with me, but I'll talk about that later on. So, I hope all of you are doing well. Does anyone have any questions about anything that they want to ask me today? Just post them in the chat, and I'll definitely take a look at those, and hopefully I can answer those for you. And what else? Let me see. I kind of thought today I would do a little bit shorter video session just to say hello and get the ball rolling on this. I haven't done anything on YouTube Live before, so I wanted to make sure everything was working well, which so far so good. I think it is. So, but the stitch that I wanted to show you today is really cool. I'm going to put my other camera on one that I stitched out last night to show you and talk about that a little bit. Here it is. This is a 2-thread narrow wrapped stitch. This is the top side, the right side, and it kind of looks like a faux, very narrow, delicate piped edge, which is exactly the look that I wanted. And I'm going to show you how I got that. And you see these 3 little tails sticking out. That is 3 pieces of, I think this is like a 6-weight cording, like a yarn, and it's old, it's cotton. And so I didn't want to use it for stitching on anything anymore, because I think because it's cotton, and I don't even remember how long ago I bought it, I have a feeling that it might break easily under the serger. But this is the top side, and I'm going to show you the underside as well. Because it's wrapped, this is my lower looper thread. This is 8-weight cotton Wonderfill thread, and you could use a 12-weight as well, although you might have to adjust your stitch length, of course, and I'll talk to you about that when I go to the serger and I show you how I do this. But it's just beautiful, and as I said, it looks like a piped edge because I've stitched over that cording. What I did was, I already cut this last night. I cut 3 lengths of this cotton thread, and I'm going to use that in the cording foot, and I will show you how to load that in. Now, different brands, let me go back to me for a second. Different brands of machines do have cording feet. You might be able to use a piping foot for this on your machine if you don't have a cording foot, but it's just a really cool foot to use, and it's the same foot that I use on the L890 for doing wire edge ribbon. I had done, I didn't do them this year because I had enough wreaths, but when I want to do a nice big bow on a wreath or a basket or something like that, I'll take 2 layers of my cotton fabric, put them wrong sides together, and do that wire edge ribbon and use my cording foot. So, and the way I've got this set up, this is really great. You'll be able to see my settings on the screen. Let me just show you that. So, and also you'll be able to see the foot where I stitch, and then I can go up here and I can leave my settings up on the screen for you. You might see those little radiating lines on that, and I think that's just a little bit of reflection from the camera lens against the screen itself. So no big deal on that. So let me go back to me for just a second here. Oh, Barbara Nickel from Ohio. Great for that. But anyway, oh, Juki. Okay, Shannon. And you're new to serging. Yeah, the Juki has a great machine, so you'll really enjoy serging with that. And if you have questions, you can always send me an email or anything else. So I'm very happy to hear from everybody, no matter what brand or model that you have. So that is fantastic. Now, to get to this stitch, what are we going to do? I mentioned that this is a 2-thread wrapped edge. So, and it's narrow because I wanted something kind of delicate. And you are going to see this stitch used in an upcoming pattern that I'm working on. It's really pretty. It's almost like a little frame, or it just gives a little bit of dimension to the edge of whatever project that you're doing. If you didn't want to use a binding or do anything like a 3-thread wide or anything else, especially for smaller pieces. And the pattern that I have coming up has a few small rectangles and square in it. And a 3-thread wide, I think, might be kind of big proportionally for that. So this stitch really works well. I just started using this and playing around with it right after Christmas, and I can't believe I never did this before. So I'm kind of excited to show you. So it's almost as new to me as it is to you, but I have worked out the settings that I like on that. So hi from Chicago. Hi, Amy, Carol, Shannon, sure. Okay, so why don't we go over to the machine, but before we do, does anyone have any questions about anything that they want to ask me? I won't be able to look at my screen while I'm stitching. I do, for as much as I serge, I do have to pay attention to what I'm doing at the machine, so don't, I'll be very happy to answer you when I turn back to the screen so that I can see the chat box. So anyway, all right, so let's go over to the machine and take a look at how to load in my 3 pieces of cording. Now, I tried it with 2 and it looked very nice, but then I thought, well, let me try it with 3. And one of the things that I like to talk about when you're using the cording foot is that no matter what you're using as filler cord, think of it almost like piping, but it really isn't. It's actually easier because there are fewer steps. Whatever you're using as your filler, you have to make sure that it travels comfortably and freely through the presser foot. If you've got too much bulk for your filler and it starts dragging and it won't advance forward as the machine stitches, then you need to find something to lighten it up. I haven't tried 4 in this, but 3 is pretty good, and that's really what I kind of like for this. Now, I'm going to switch over to my machine and to the foot. I have the presser foot raised, and to get this loaded in, I like to pivot the presser foot out of the way. You know what, maybe I'll show you this foot off the machine so that you can see it first. Let me try that. And then you can kind of see it up close. I'm going to switch over to my table camera. So this is the cording foot. It is C17. And so it has this little guide on the front and one right here. And I'll show you how to, this is for overlock only on this. It's C17, this is for, and if you have an Bernina 850 or 860, which are overlock only machines, it would be L17. So it gets loaded in here, and it's almost kind of, it seems to me a little bit kind of a backward way of putting it in, but it works easily. So let me put it back on the machine and show you how to load that in. So, this out of the way. That's the Bernina Burke that you hear. So it's easiest to get this pivoted out. And sometimes if the knife is in the way, I sometimes might even put that down. But also, I want to show you that because this is a 2-thread stitch, there's no thread in my upper looper, and I'm going to turn my flashlight on my phone, and I'm going to put a little more light on that just temporarily. I think I am. Okay. Okay. So I have a little more light on that, and you can see this is my upper looper converter, and I have that clicked in. Some brands of machine call this a subsidiary looper, and if you've watched any of my tip clips with a 2-thread stitch, you've heard me talk about this. So what this does is, because there's no thread in my upper looper, I need to close the eye of it. And also, not only does that upper looper converter close the eye because there's no thread in it, but it also helps guide the lower looper thread, which is my decorative thread. That's my 8-weight thread that you see right here. It helps carry that over so that the needle thread can grab it and form a stitch. If you are ever doing a 2-thread stitch and you forget to put that on, when you step on the foot control, you won't get a stitch. Don't panic. Just stop and flip this over. Usually it's like this for most 3-thread stitches and 4-thread and in overlock mode. And then I just clicked it into the eye for those 2 threads. So let's take a look at how to load this filler cord in. So I'm going to put my knife down just to get it out of the way. I don't want any little boo-boos on my hand. So I'm holding it like a piece of floss underneath both, on both sides. And there's an opening on the side here. So I bring this forward and loop it under and flip it over. It's almost a horseshoe shape on the front. And then the rest of this I can bring to the back of the foot. And let me get my hand out of the way so that you can see. And so this is loaded in, and this will act like a guide. And the thing to check is when you put your presser foot down, does it slide freely? That's the important thing to double check on that. And as I said, if it gets hung up or anything else, lighten up the bulk on that. So let me close the machine. I am going to pull this forward just a little bit. As I said, it seems kind of like a backwards way of loading it in, but it's quick and easy, and it makes it super simple to get your cording in there, especially because I'm using multiples. Typically, I'd go looking for something that was just a single cord and a little bit thicker, but this is what I had on hand to play around with, and you probably have lots of other stuff too that you're not using. Okay, so I'm going to do the opposite edge. Oh, and let me talk about my settings too. Let me go to my screen. Now, on this machine, this is computerized. So this is showing, the green is showing my right needle. You see the RN in the green block. That's my right needle tension. My lower looper tension is on 4. These are the default settings on this. I have needle up, just the way you have needle up, needle down on your sewing machine. And the default setting is with a stitch length of 2.5 and 1.0 for my differential feed. Now, I would prefer to have a little bit of a shorter stitch because I want better coverage on the edge. So I saved my settings, and I also changed my tensions around. So I have in my memory my wrap stitch, and let's take a look. These are my settings for that. I cranked up my needle tension from 4.0 up to 7.2. My lower looper tension I lowered from 4 to 3.6, and I really shortened up the stitch length to 1.3. So those are my settings, and I think those should work pretty well. That's what I did on the sample one. So let me just switch one more time so that you can watch that. Eileen says, nice idea to use multiple yarn strands for piping instead of having to buy special cording. Oh, she's a knitter and has lots of yarn to experiment with. Great. Hi, Myra from Seattle. All right, let me go to this camera. Okay, so now you can still see my settings. I changed my tensions around, but that's not to say that if you have a machine that you cannot adjust your tensions on, you can probably still do this 2-thread stitch. I have my right overlock needle in because it is a narrow stitch. I have my stitch finger engaged because I do want some width to this. I don't want it as skinny down as a rolled hem stitch. I do want it to be a little bit more visible on the fabric itself. And my cutting width and stitch width are on 6.0. That's right below the table down here. I can't switch my camera around without getting all fuzzy. So let me just do a little bit of test stitching on this without my fabric in. I'm going to pull that cording forward a little bit. Just do a little bit. And one of my top tips, if you've heard my decorative stitch class with decorative threads, is whenever you're stitching with a heavier weight thread, 12 weight thread, 8 weight thread, I always like to hold onto the thread tails before the fabric hits the needle, just to make sure that everything is traveling along. So let me hold on to these and just test this out, make sure we're in good shape. And I'm holding this longer edge also just for a few seconds. It's not absolutely necessary. And right off the bat, I think when I put my foot down, I pulled that cording off to the left. So you want to make sure the cording is riding to the right of your needle. It needs to be encased from the needle. So the needle is going to be to the left of your filler cord or cords. And I'm trying to work around my camera, so it's a little more awkward. I think this should be okay though. Okay, so let me just test that and make sure. Yep, that's good. Okay, so I'm just going to do the short edge of the same fabric, the opposite side. I think, let me put my trim bit on. I think I'll put my seam guide on too, just to make sure I stay nice and even with trimming. And I'll put my knife back up. I had put that down just for safety's sake. And get this just a smidge under. I take my knee lift off when I do classes simply because I don't have room when I have all my cameras set up. So let's give this a go. And actually, I can even pull back on the cording just a little bit if I pulled it too far back to cover the whole edge. So, oops, I think one of the cords is coming out here, but that's all right. Let me see which one it is. I think I pulled the one out. And once you get going, there's really nothing that you need to manage all that much because the foot is keeping the cord where it needs to be. Okay. Get that out. We can just seam it off. And I think I caught my cording, but no, I didn't. I'm good. Okay, so let me just put my foot up, pull this out and cut it, and let's take a look at this under the table camera. It is just super pretty. Okay, so this is the one that I just stitched. I just had a little, I think I did pull the cording out right there, but no big deal. So there it is. Super, super pretty. Now, let me tell you why I changed a couple of those settings around. I increased the tension on that right needle because the thread in my lower looper is 8 weights. And you've heard me talk about kind of a tug of war with tensions on the threads. So because it's 8-weight thread versus Serger cone thread in my right needle, that 8-weight thread is going to pull harder. So I needed to make the needle thread pull a little bit more. And so I cranked up the tension from, let me just put it right up here, to 7.2 from 4.0. And I wanted to weaken the tension on the lower looper thread from 4. I just brought that down to 3.6. So, and again, the 1.3 stitch length is for good coverage on the edge. That is variable though, depending on the weight of the thread and how you're using it, and also the way you want it to look. So that is a little tutorial on that 2-thread, but as I say, I have not done that ever on any projects, and I plan to start using it more. And you'll see that a more in-depth tutorial on YouTube when I do a Serger tip clip on that and talk about different threads, and I may even show it with a couple of different weights. I also love the 12-weight threads as well. So that is just a nice way to do a lot of different stitching. Now you do have to kind of play around with your settings. You may want to play around with tension if you can adjust it, stitch length. Unless you're doing something on a knit fabric, I think you can leave your differential feed on 1. I don't think that should be anything that needs any kind of playing around. So, and this was a quilting weight cotton. I also neglected to mention that I had, let me just show this on the camera. I had just done a fusible cotton interfacing on this, or not interfacing, but a fusible cotton stabilizer on the back of that, just to give it a little more body. I think that I did try it on a cotton without doing any stabilization on the back, and it still worked fine. But I kind of like the look of when the fabric is stabilized. It stays smooth and really nice. So let me look at the chat and see what we have. What kind of Barbara Nickel is saying, what kind of threads would work for the filler, as I would need to purchase something? Well, actually, Barbara, if you had any kind of very fine cording, even just to practice, like if you had some twine just for practice, that would work fine. But you could use yarn. You could use, this is just a cotton one because it was in my stash. The one that I used, and I tripled it up. There are a lot of different things that you can use. I will say, though, that if this is something that you're going to launder, a piece that you're going to launder, and you're using 100% cotton for the cording, I would definitely just take a big long length of it and soak it in some hot water to pre-shrink it before you do it, because you'd hate to wash something and have that filler cord shrink and then have the edge look kind of puckery. That really wouldn't be great. And because the stitching is encasing that, it wouldn't hold the original dimension if it needed to be pre-shrunk. So yarn, again, for practice, just twine. That should be fine. I'm trying to think of what else would work well. If anyone else has any suggestions, just let me know. Or some thicker old threads, that should work well. Kathy said, I love that even though the 890 has default settings for each stitch, you are not married to them. You can still tweak and change the setting. Yeah, and you know very well that I am somebody who is a big tweaker. I like to tweak things and get stitching just the way I want it to look. But each machine is a little bit different. So try it out on your machine. Try out the settings. But if you're doing the narrow stitch, as this was with the right needle, on the baby lock machines, make sure your stitch selector is either on B or C. I wouldn't put it on D because that snugs up the tension on your lower looper. But again, B or C, but try it out. Try both out and see which one you like better. Sometimes both will work, but it's a matter of which one do I like better. And that's what a lot of decorative stitching is all about. What do I want it to look like, and what do I have to do to make it look the way I want it to? So Eileen says, this looks a little like a 3-thread overlock narrow edge. When would I want to do a 2 instead of a 3-thread edging? Well, that's a great question. So let me go back to this first edge again. Let me just come back to my other camera. Now, bring it in. You're looking at my blank table here before. Okay, so the needle thread is just holding the stitching right along this edge. This is my lower looper thread. Now, on a 3-thread wide or narrow overlock stitch, I would have had thread in both the upper looper. This color would have been a different one, and then the lower looper might have been different from the upper looper. But the wrapped edge is just pretty if you just want that look of a little bit dimensional, kind of like piping. Let me see if I can kind of get it to, oh, here you go. That's a good shot. So that you can kind of see there is a little bit of thickness. And again, if you didn't have the option of doing that 2-thread stitch, you could definitely do a 3-thread narrow overlock stitch without a problem. It's just that you would see the loops meet right on the edge. In this case, because it's a wrap stitch, that lower looper thread wraps right around the edge. So it's just a different look. So, oh, somebody said crochet thread. Yes, that is excellent. That's a great idea. That's from Linda Flynn. Oh, Linda said also hardware stores have great rolls of poly twine that don't shrink. Oh, that's good to know. But going back to the stitch itself, I mentioned that um, I use this cording foot for wire edge ribbon, but also you could use it with fishing line. Sometimes on kids' costumes for dance, or little girls want to be a princess for Halloween or something like that, and you want that kind of undulating edge on their tutus or their little tulle skirts or whatever. Fishing line works well too. I know a bunch of years ago I was teaching a, a Serger Essential class, and one of the techniques that we did was wire edge ribbon. And I was cutting so many kits that I thought, well, gee, let me go into the hardware store and buy a huge roll of 26 gauge wire. And I went in and I was looking at all their wires, and it seemed like they had everything but 26 gauge. And a man came over who worked at the store asking if he could help me, and I told him I was looking for 26 gauge, and he said, well, what are you looking for it for? And I said, rolled hem edges on ribbon. And he kind of looked at me like, what? But anyway, I have never been able to find 26 gauge wire in huge quantities. I'm sure that you can find it someplace, but I don't really need it that much now. So let me just see. Isla said she's late. No problem, Isla, because you can watch the whole thing in the recorded one. That'll go back up on YouTube. So that's great. And Eileen said no beaded edge on the edge like the 3-thread. That's right. But again, say you're looking for something with a piped edge, but you didn't want the bulk of covering a cording with fabric and then inserting it between two layers of fabric. That would be a time when this technique would work really well. And you could even, if you wanted something with a slightly heavier or thicker edge on it, try something that's a little heavier. But again, the name of the game is that it travels smoothly and freely through the foot. So if you can get a thicker cord, which I think I probably could have put another layer in, but just for today I did the 3 cords. Definitely try that out. Hey, Sally from Bluffton, thanks for joining us. So anyway, were there any questions about that at all? I don't think I had anything else that I needed to show you or talk to you about today. I do have some fun stuff coming up though, so you may see me again before the second Tuesday in February. As I mentioned earlier, these are going to be on the second Tuesday of the month, unless of course if by chance I'm traveling to do a class someplace. Where or what would you use this edge finish, and do you recommend an interfacing behind the fabric? Well, I used a cotton stabilizer, just an inexpensive one. Let me just show it to you again. It's a woven fusible interfacing or stabilizer on the back of this fabric. It's light, and I didn't want anything heavy because it's a quilting weight cotton. But again, test it without the stabilizer, then test it with, and see which one you like better. I have to say, most of the time, anytime I'm using a thicker, heavier decorative thread, I like the fabric stabilized. I think it holds it better. Also, when you're using 12 weight or 8 weight threads on quilting weight cotton, which is what I use today, then I think you have fewer chances of the fabric edge puckering. I just think it gives it a nicer look to have it stabilized. One of my other favorite lightweight fusible fleece stabilizers is OESD's Fusion Fleece. That's a very lightweight one, but there are lots of other brands and ones on the market that aren't quite as thick as, say, a quilting weight batting that you could use too. But I think it just keeps the fabric looking nice, and you have fewer chances of it puckering with that heavier thread on the edge of the quilting white cotton. Who else? Let me see. Have you tried this with a wide thread to use cording on a pillow? Yes, I did a tip clip, but that was not using the cording foot. I used the piping foot on that. In fact, for that one, I used the extra large piping foot, which will do 6, 8, or 10 millimeter filler cord. That's much thicker than this delicate edge. But you could also use your piping foot for something that is a little bit thicker than what I did today, but narrower than the 6, 8, or 10. On my machine, I have 2 different piping feet. I have the C16L, which is the large piping foot, and that will take up to a 5 millimeter one. And then they have a smaller one, and I can't remember the number on the foot, but it has 3 millimeters. So that would switch out the foot. I couldn't use something quite that thick with the cording foot that I used. That's the piping foot. So they have the 3 millimeter, which is their small piping foot. The C16L is their large piping foot, or they have the extra large for 6, 8, or 10 millimeter filler cord. So I hope that answers that question. Shannon said Amazon, Motorcraft 26 gauge wire for jewelry. Joanne said, would this hold up on a pillow edge? That's a good question. It's a narrow edge. It depends if the pillow is something that's just decorative, isn't going to get thrown, used a lot, but it's just kind of there for decor. I honestly think, Joanne, for a pillow where you'd be joining the back and front pieces, I think then I would switch to the piping foot and use a slightly wider filler cord on that, just for stability and for strength. And particularly if you're going to take the cover off and launder it occasionally, I think that's what I would do. I'm not 100% sure that such a narrow edge would hold up unless it's a pillow that's just there, you're going to see it, but it's not in a family room where kids are going to be throwing it on the floor and using it to prop up their head when they're watching TV or anything. So that would be my answer. I would go back to the piping foot, use something slightly wider, and I would use the left needle for that stitch just to hold the piping in place. So that would be my suggestion on that. I'm just looking to see if there's anything else. Can you use this for seaming? You know what, Teresa, I'm wondering the same thing. I have not used it for seaming, but I am going to try that out. I don't know if I'm going to have time today. I've got a couple of things on the docket for today, but I will try it out before I do my tip clip, and I'll let you know in the tip clip whether it's great for seaming. I don't see why it wouldn't be, to tell you the truth. So how about a ruffle edge on a decorative pillow face? Yes, you could definitely use it as an edge stitch on a ruffle. Absolutely. And again, it would be very pretty. And because it is wrapped, let me go back to the camera on here. You can see that the underside, a ruffle would be something where you would see the back and front of the ruffle. So that's where having that wrapped edge look really nice on both sides would make a big difference. But if you do try it out on a ruffle, send me a photo. I love to see stuff like that, and we all do, actually, and it's a great learning experience for everybody. So if you do try it out, you could definitely use something with the 3 cords in it, but test it with even maybe 2, just so that the edge of the ruffle has that nice ruffly look. Just see which one you like better. I'm big on comparison and trying out, say, 2 chords, 3 chords, 1 chord. I did try 1 chord originally, and it didn't look much different than if there was no filler chord in it all. Then I went up to 2, then I went up to 3, and the 3 was what I liked. But that's where testing and experimenting really comes into play, because you will get the look that you want, and then you can even write it down. Now, I was able to save my specialty settings for this stitch in the memory of this machine, but you can even write it down if you keep a notebook with references. I'm big on those page protectors. Put your sample inside. You can write down the stitch that you use, the stitch length, tension settings if you've got tension settings, stitch width as well. My stitch width again was on 6 on this. So if you don't have a memory in your machine, then you can keep track of it right in your reference notebook with a sample as well. And sometimes, again, in that sample book, it's great to note whether you tried something with 4 or 5 chords and it was too thick. It will jog your memory when you go to use it again, because some of these stitches are specialty, and maybe you're doing it today for a project, and maybe you won't use it again till next year or 6 or 8 months from now. And you'll have all that information right at hand. You don't have to jog your brain or start retesting again. So, yeah, I think it would be really nice as a ruffle edge, definitely. And nice on both sides as well. Did anyone else? Oh, Linda said she's thinking about trying it on double-sided napkins. Yes, actually, I think it was last year, a couple of years ago, I did quick holiday gifts, and I did a double-sided napkin that I used as a basket liner. I think it would be super pretty on something like that. I think it would be very nice on that. I think I'm the one that I did. I used a 3-thread wide stitch, but try it out on this too. Joanne saying, thank you, Gail. Gotta go. As always, enjoy your classes at virtual and live at ASG. Thanks very much. Okay, so I think that's going to wrap up today. And leave your comments below, or put in your suggestions for upcoming presentations and let me know. But I think I'll probably see you again before February, and I'll put an announcement out. I'll have it on Facebook and Instagram and all the usual places. So, but thanks so much for joining me today. This is such an exciting start, and happy January, happy 2024 to everybody, and I hope it's a super creative year for all of you. So, and again, you can always send me your questions and comments, and if you include a picture, it always helps me troubleshoot if you're having a problem with it. So, Linda, thank you, everybody. So I'm going to sign off for right now, and have a great week and enjoy.